Believe it or not, this is going to be a cryptocurrency show. Real quick question here for you. Funny little conundrum type of a question. What happens when an unstoppable force meets an unmovable object? Right? You've heard these kind of questions before. Is it possible that God could create something so heavy that he himself could not lift it? You know, weird little questions like that. So I have another one here for you. Do you believe that a human being can construct something, can build something that he himself cannot repair? Right? Is it possible to build something that you cannot yourself, that you built, that you cannot diagnose what's wrong with it and fix it? Is that even possible? Right? Can God create something so heavy that he himself cannot lift it? It's that kind of question. And the answer is no. Right? It is impossible for human beings to build something. I'm not talking about creating something like you know, I have a child that I created. Right? But there's other metaphysical things at play when it comes to that. But building like a car or a cathedral or a computer system or something like that, you cannot create something that you yourself cannot fix, right? That you cannot diagnose, that you could not reverse engineer and figure it out. Now, why did I say all that? Well, because Bill Gates is back in the news talking absolute nonsense, and I just wanted to kind of illustrate who Bill Gates truly is. Now, you know, brilliant software engineer, yes. One of the wealthiest people in the world, of course, right? Used to own one of the most important companies to civilization today, as we know, absolutely, right? But all those things being said, he's still just a human being, right? And that's one thing that we cannot forget as we move forward in this cryptocurrency market, because there's a lot of people talking nonsense. Right? There's a lot of people that are using words to make themselves sound more important than they are, or make their projects sound more important than they are. And I wanted to illustrate this with Bill Gates because he's the easiest target. Let me explain why. Years ago, just not, I would say about 20 years ago, a little over 20 years ago, we were coming up on the turn of the millennia, right? It was going to be the year 2000. It was going to be, you know, 1999, just like Prince had sang about in his song. And old Bill Gates came out, and he started running around telling everybody, like, listen, when the clock strikes midnight on the year 2000, all the computer systems are going to shut down. And this is a big problem because everything's connected to the computer system. Our banking, our transportation, our airlines have software in them. What if the airplanes fall out of the sky? Right? And if you buy my new software, it'll fix it. Right? So what he was saying, it was called the Y2K crisis. What he was saying as a company, he was saying, we have built something that we cannot fix. There's a problem in our thing that we built that we cannot diagnose. And that is an impossibility. But he got away with that scam because he was the king of the nerds at the time. Still is, I'm sure. Right? He was the king of Computerlandia. Right? Where all of his subjects had to come to him for his good graces. And that is a powerful thing. When you have that kind of power, and you know, you're running a technological revolution, and only a handful of people speak your language, but you're the king of that world. That gives you the power to go speak to kings of other worlds, like the president of the United States, or the head of the UN, or the head of Boeing, GE, and GM, and say, listen, multi-million-dollar organizations, multi-trillion-dollar nations, you have to buy my software, or else your whole world is going to fall apart. And they had to buy it because he had that authority to say those stupid things. And nobody questioned him about it, right? That's power. That's the kind of power that exclusivity gives you, right? And so Bill Gates was allowed to pull off the greatest scam in history. And why is it the greatest? It's because he never got caught. Nobody ever leveled a single accusation against Bill Gates for conning the whole world. Now keep in mind, there were a lot of people back then, well, there's always people like this, but back then there was a lot of people that didn't have the sort of, you know, intellectual capacity to navigate their way through that. And so they bought into the fear, and they sold their homes and all of their possessions and all of their holdings, their children's education funds, and they joined a cult, and their lives were ruined, right? Because this guy wanted to make some money, right? It's that simple. Yes, Bill Gates is one of the wealthiest people in the world. Yes, he created a wonderful company, but he's still just a man. He's still made of flesh and blood, just like you and me, right? Which means he's corrupt. He's corruptible. He's susceptible, right? To his own greed and to his own desires and that sort of thing. That's what kind of man he is. So when Bill Gates comes out last week and says, Bitcoin's killing people, right? And he made the connection that, people die of drug overdoses, right? So it's not the amount of chemicals that these drug addicts put into their veins. That's not what killed them. It's not the fact that they are drug addicts and they are the kind of people who put chemicals into their veins. That didn't kill them. It wasn't the drug dealers who sold them the drugs. That didn't kill them either. In fact, it was the payment method that killed them. The Bitcoin. You see what I'm saying? That's the kind of... If he's capable of saying something that stupid, that just shows you, like, he's the king of the nerds. And that the king of the nerds said that out loud. So what does that say about Charlie Lee or any of these other, Roger Ver, who's bizarre rantings and bizarre behavior? You know what I mean? Like, they're just people. They're flawed. They're just flawed individuals, just like you and me, right? So you need to be very careful about who you listen to and what they're actually saying, and tune in to what's actually being said so that you can navigate your way through their bullshit to get to whatever truth it is that they're saying. You know what I mean? Yes, it is tragic that people die of drug overdoses. It is not tragic that they paid for their drugs with Bitcoin. You know what I mean? So yeah, there's a nugget of truth in there. Yes, there are tragic human beings out there who live horrible lives, and that's awful. But it's not Bitcoin's fault. Furthermore, I don't really need a lecture on morality from a guy who pulled off the greatest scam of all time. All right, that whole Bitcoin thing. That's like saying that's what people like me hear when other people say guns kill people. You know what I mean? Like, it's not the individual rotten person that killed another person, right? It's not the bullet. You know what I mean? It's the gun. It's not the individual. The individual responsible to conduct themselves and through their whole life. It's not their fault. It's the gun's fault, and the gun manufacturer's fault, and some company or some organization, not even a company, some organization that doesn't even manufacture guns, the NRA, it's their fault. And this is the kind of thing, right? This new transition that we're moving through in the technological revolution that includes the blockchain. This social hysteria is going to be a big, big part of it, right? Because that's what's happening right now, right? Is blockchain technology and the next wave of technological evolution, is that happening right now? Yes. Well, what else is happening right now on this planet? You know what I mean? It all ties together. It all affects, one thing does affect another. And if you've got people running around who can't even figure out which bathroom to use, you know what I mean, saying that America is evil, right? Well, I'm pretty sure everything good in the last 150 years has come out of the United States. Almost everything. And for every one thing that you come up with, like the Rubik's Cube or something like that, I'll give you 50 things. For every one of yours, I'll give you 50. Right? America's not an evil place. Guns don't kill people, and Bitcoin doesn't cause drug overdoses. Anyways, that's enough for the day. Everybody send a letter to old Billy Gates. Let him know what you think about his little comment, and congratulate him on his millennial scam. That was a convolution of a whole bunch of things coming together right for that guy. He made a bunch of money, and so did his shareholders. Good for you, sir. Anyways, I will not be listening to him any longer. Y'all have a good night.